Would you rather have the black president or the white president who got $1.7 billion off the price? I think they want the white guy right now.
Trump doesn't see race until it benefits him to either act like he gives a damn about representing black Americans or reassure his base that he actually doesn't.
Why don't we just call the election over? Because at 28%, and I hope that stays that way, but you know what? And I hope it goes up higher. It should be much higher. Honestly, it should be 100% of the black people should vote for Trump, because I did more for black people than any president other than Abraham Lincoln. It's true. It's true. I did more than any president other than Abraham Lincoln.
You know, when your only reference point in American history regarding black folks is Abraham Lincoln and the end of slavery, you might be telling on yourself that that's the only time you've ever considered anything a black issue. Because every other time he brings up black folks, he likes to use a very specific word without much more context.
We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane, it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms with gear and this and that. They're on a plane.
Where's this?
I'll tell you sometime, but it's under investigation right now. But they came from a certain city, and this person was coming to the Republican National Convention. And there were like 7 people on the plane like this person, and then a lot of people were on the plane to do big damage. They were coming from
planning for Washington.
Yeah,
in that 3 hours, over 140 officers were injured that day.
And a person named Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yes.
You know what? She was killed, and she shouldn't have been killed. And that thug that killed her, there was no reason to shoot her. At blank range, cold blank range, they shot her. And she was a good person. She was a patriot. There was no reason. And he went on television to brag about the fact that he killed her.
The officer was not bragging about the fact that he killed her, but
bragging.
one person.
You should have seen all those damn thugs get on this plane coming from a certain city that I won't name because I don't want to say Chicago, Baltimore, or Detroit and turn my dog whistle into a referee's whistle. And speaking of Detroit, remember he scurried there to fulfill one aspect of his plan where he acts like he gives a damn about people's lives there?
I can cuss.
Yeah, you can cuss.
He's a racist. Why he came here? To try and get black votes.
Well, he went to the white black church to get his votes and everything, but the only quorum he had was white folks. He can't get my vote.
He wanted to steal Detroit votes, take them away, make them seem like they didn't matter. So for him to come back to a black community church and still asking for our support, I just feel like that's wrong. I feel like it's not genuine.
Yeah.
And I'm not voting for him.
I think it was a bit of a smoke screen. If you look at the demographics of the people who were actually there versus where the event was held.
And what would you say your top issue is, especially for the Detroit community?
Resources and employment.
Get rid of these abandoned homes. Renovation, not just downtown, coming to the inner city.
Homelessness.
Continuing to expand infrastructure.
Can we ask you who you are voting for?
I'm voting for Biden.
Biden. I choose the less of two evils.
Biden, for real.
Yeah, I plan on voting for Joe Biden. I don't think the alternative makes the situation any better.
It's telling that someone can interview black Detroiters that absolutely unequivocally can't stand Donald Trump, seeing him as the racist panderer that he is, while he can also visit the Black Conservative Foundation where they accept him, saying that they're too dark for him to see and that they like him because he's a criminal, which he thinks they can relate to. All these politicians from either party think that they can tell black folks what their issues are, but they rarely listen to us. Because if they listened to those folks earlier in Detroit, they'd be forced to either blow them off immediately or disappoint them later. They think black people are stupid and don't realize that very few powerful elected officials know what black people experience. That we just follow along like subordinate citizens looking for answers and saviors from the Democratic Party. So in Trump's competition to feign concern for black voters, he thinks that having a black pastor allowing him to use his church as a photo op is a solid win. And of course, his partners in right-wing media did their part.
Part of it is the fact that the former president is going into places like Detroit, where over the weekend, on Saturday, he was reminding voters, I believe this was at a black church.
Donald Trump says, I'd rather go to Detroit, to the inner city. And then Zelensky said, please.
On the same day, Donald Trump was in Detroit, Michigan,
preaching the MAGA gospel to black voters at a church
daily. Here is what one pastor in Detroit over the weekend told Donald Trump. Take a listen.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood.
That was the act. And this was the head nod to everyone else about how little he cares about speaking to black people and their actual issues.
So this is a screen capture from a video that Patriot Takes posted on Twitter, also known as X. It's not the highest quality, but you can tell very easily as I zoomed in and slowed it down, those are white folks. That's a bunch of white folks in a black church.
Black folks knew when Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and them knelt down with kente cloths on that they were participating in some bullshit performative art meant to signal temporary support for some votes. But we didn't need to see them kneeling. We need to see them pass legislation to disincentivize and criminalize cops that murder innocent black folks in the street and in their homes. And when the response from Republicans to black people is to get off of the Democratic plantation, we understand that they still only see us as enslaved people that they want to control. So how do they expect that to result in some votes? They really don't. They're mostly speaking to each other, still refusing to listen to the black experience long enough to take it in, analyze it, and do something legislatively about it. All the rest is just insulting.
We're still not free yet. There's a presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to black and brown people, and it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how kind you are, how talented you are. You can go places where you have to navigate a presumption of dangerousness and guilt. And our political and elected officials need to help us eliminate that burden, because it's unfair. I'm a lawyer, I'm a middle-aged black man, I've got all of these degrees, I've won cases at the Supreme Court, and I still go to places where I'm viewed as less than, where I'm presumed to be the defendant or presumed to be dangerous just because of the way I appear. And that's a heavy burden, I can tell you, because I'm getting older, that when you're constantly navigating these presumptions of dangerousness and guilt, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And we want something better. And I continue to believe that there is something that feels more like freedom, more like equality, more like justice, and I think it's waiting for us. And so we want candidates that are going to help us advance that. And to be honest, I haven't heard much, frankly, from Donald Trump and many others in that camp that speaks to that history. So we'll see what happens in the election, but I frankly think we've got a lot of critical issues in this country, and I don't see the dynamic around who champions those issues shifting very much.